Channel. Right now, the weather looks good for upcoming Halloween. That's about less than a week away. And we have been highlighting all the spooky areas throughout the state. And I couldn't let the season go by without talking about Mississippi's most haunted house. That's the McRaven home in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Joining us to tell us a little bit more is Michael. I know he's one of the tour guides there. Hey, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going well. You sound extra chipper to give tours in a really ghostly, haunted house. So I'm impressed by that.
Oh yeah, I love working at the house. I'm a professional ghost hunter anyhow, so it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Well, I think that's up for, debate depending on what your idea of fun is. But no, I think this is a wonderful historic home. It's been featured nationally for years, putting a spotlight there in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and the Civil War sort of era and all the things around it. So how do you describe the McRaven House to those who come for a tour?
The one thing we tell everybody is the house is a time capsule. It itself was built in 3 distinct sections over 225 years, and during that time, it's had a whole cast of kooks and characters living in its walls over the years. It started off as a bandit hideout. It would later become a townhome and a field hospital during the siege. So it has a long and storied history behind it.
So do you know when the first phase was built? Do you know about a date for that?
Yes, ma'am. It would have been originally built in 1797. The first section would be. Then the later sections would be added in 1836 and in 1849.
And when you mention a time capsule, is that when people go through the tours, or is it still set up kind of as those eras throughout the phases, or did it kind of just morph into the latter phase throughout the house?
It actually it maintains its original architectural styling throughout, so each section looks how it would have originally. And we've done a pretty good job of making sure each section has, like, furniture from around those time periods as well. So it's not just a saying of, like, it was built like this. No, it's maintained those 3 time periods all throughout it.
When in its history did the McRaven House, and has it always been the McRaven? You can tell us the backstory of its name, the McRaven, if it was the owner or maybe if it's tied to something there. When did it start getting wind, maybe in the community or whoever was passing through, that maybe it's a little lively, maybe there's something else going on within the walls?
So the name itself, we actually get the name it used to be our own street address. We used to be on McRaven Avenue. We were 313, if that helps in any way, shape, or form. But help make it a little bit spookier. But we would originally start getting, like, reports of it being haunted around the 1970s when we first started running tours of the home. But the first documented ghost story actually comes from 1864 during the Union occupation over the town.
And who is that ghost? Who would be, or do you know who the ghosts are supposed to be? Do they have names or sort of identities, or is it still just sort of part of the story of the McRaven home?
But that's the thing. We actually have a few of them narrowed down. I could give you a full list. There's John Bob, Harry Murray, William Murray, Mary Elizabeth Howard, Andrew Glass. They all have their own distinct personalities and things that they do. We also have a slew of soldiers because the house was a field hospital during the siege, and it still today is a cemetery for them. There's still a gravesite on the side of the house for the Confederate soldiers who fought there.
So has anybody figured out, Michael, I mean, it can't be the only old structure that's ever, survived a couple hundred years, but it feels like maybe it's just a soft spot for those that are lingering between, the here and the thereafter. Is there a reason why the list is long on perceived ghosts that are hanging around?
I personally ascribe to, and a lot of the people at the house believe this too. It has to do with they experienced very traumatic things during their time. The McRaven House kind of has a sad history behind it. We have one lady who passed away in childbirth there. That's Miss Mary. Andrew Glass, he was a highway robber, and he would be murdered by his wife. John would be the first civilian casualty during the siege, and the siege of Vicksburg was already a horrific time for the soldiers who still walked the grounds. So I think ultimately it really does have to do with there was something traumatic that happened to them during their lives that somehow bound them to the house.
So let's talk about the tours, because they're made famous. People come from all over to Vicksburg just to visit the McRaven House. I know this is y'all's busiest time of year, obviously, because it lends to Halloween, but you do tours throughout the year as well. Walk us through that. What happens if you come to visit the home?
So we do run history tours, and we also run haunted tours all through the weekends. And our candlelight tours for Halloween. The history tours, you get to learn a lot about Vicksburg itself, antiques around the home. You get to learn about the architectural stylings and the Civil War era stuff that we have around the house. The haunted tours, they're a lot spookier. We'll darken down the lights, and we'll tell you the story of how everyone passed away and all the strange phenomena that they've been doing while they're here. Some things that were so bad it actually drove the previous caretaker of the house to abandon the McRaven home. And then, of course, there's our candlelight tours, which is our big Halloween event where we dress up like the former residents of the house. And we tell you ghost stories from their point of view, which is also a lot of fun. I love doing those.
Michael, what draws a young man to the McRaven House to lead tours? You said you're interested in, sort of the paranormal or the ghosts. Like, how did you get connected to this?
Well, I'd always been a fan that someone to run the ghost hunts that we run. So that's really what drew me there. But we also have people who come to the house solely because they're fascinated by history. And Vicksburg as a whole, like, I love all of it. I was in high school.
We got a little bit of technical difficulty there with Michael. We'll try to reconnect with him if we can. But yes, everyone would know that Vicksburg has rich history when it comes to the Civil War and the fact that it's right there on the mighty Mississippi. So it was a great stopping point for many people traveling through and around. So you can imagine all the mischief or things that could or could not have gone on. Do we have Michael back? Hey, Michael.
Hey.
Technology's great until it's not, right? I'm just going to go ahead and assume that it's one of your friends there at the house that was like, you don't need to be telling all of our stories that we're messing up your line. They need to come out and sort of see the house for themselves. So if we want to book a tour or we want to come and do that, Michael, how do we get in touch with the McRaven House?
The easiest way is to try calling the home. Our phone number is listed on Google on the website. You can also look for tickets on our website, McRavenTourHome.com. But you can also simply call the house and be happy to set y'all up.
So you get to dress up as somebody for the candlelight tour. Who will you be, Michael?
I get to be Andrew Glass, the pioneer outlaw who built the first end of the house.
Cool. And how long was he associated with the house? How many years?
Quite a long time. So he built it in that's math I haven't had to do in a long while. It's 1797 to 1823. He would have died in 1823.
Math's hard. So 20, 30 years at most, I think.
Yeah, about 30 years, yeah.
For me and you both, yes. Math is hard. We'll just guesstimate with it, but it sounds good. But back in those days, man, 30 years is a really long, it's a much longer time even in terms of today. Well, I think it's fascinating. I think people should know their history and know these opportunities to pop in or learn more. And so that's the McRaven home there in Vicksburg. What's the website again, Michael?
McRavenTourHome.com.
All righty. I appreciate your time. See, now that's one of the tours that I would go do. I probably wouldn't do a haunted house or something that's going to jump out and scare me, but listen to how, ridiculous that is for me to say. I won't go through where there's actually people who you know is behind the mask, but line me up and send me through a haunted house where if I do get tickled or touched, it's probably something really from the other side. But then you would rationalize it out, right, Rano? Like if you felt like something tickled your back of your neck, you'd be like, that was just the wind, right? Of course it was. I don't know. It's been around for a while. All right, stick with us. We've got more good talk for you coming up.